Hey nerd, what's up? I am Brano. The time skip between the day of the outbreak and 20 years later keeps us in the dark on who was Joel before and after the outbreak. Luckily for you though, we are just smart enough to figure this out. So today we're going to be unraveling Joel's entire life in this video. If you want to know, keep watching. But before we do, consider subscribing because I just started this channel, and if you do subscribe, that will help me so much, and I promise it's only good content that's coming up, so you won't regret it. Please? Thank you. Alright, let's get on with the video. Origin. Joe was born and raised in Texas. His childhood wasn't one of comfort and luxury, as his parents didn't have enough money to make things easier and had to work kind of hard to support Joel and Tommy. And when their parents left for work, what happened? Who wore the big boy pants? Well, of course it was Joel. As he was the oldest brother, he had to be responsible for Tommy, and that responsibility made Tommy see Joel partly as a father figure. The two were true partners in almost everything they did in life, until a certain moment when, due to Tommy's choices, the relationship turned a little shaken. But they never stopped being partners in crime, life. Joel has very clearly lived two lives. The first one being before the outbreak and the second one after the outbreak. And in the first life, he had already had a big change. He had to give up his dream of being a singer and going to college because he was a father too early. Damn guys, he was a father when he was 20 years old. He was still just a boy. And having a daughter at that age was definitely a huge blow for him. And this blow got even worse after Sarah's mother abandoned them or died. There's no way to know that for sure. As Joe was a guy who doesn't really know very well how to deal with his feelings, he preferred to put the subject to rest and never touch it again. Nor with Sarah herself did he talk about what happened to her. Being a father at such an early age, he had to make ends meet in his 30s to earn some bread to support his daughter. And that's when he started working as a contractor with his brother Tom. Unfortunately though, the end of the first phase was not good at all, because it was when the pandemic hit, which symbolically enough was in his birthday. Almost as if Joel was to be reborn that day. Sadly though, Joe got the worst gift you can possibly give someone. And guys, we already know this. We already saw it in the games and in the series that his gift was to see Sarah die in his own arms, which ended up leaving him with a huge void in his life and kind of making him feel super bitter, shutting down any trust or feelings he could ever have for anyone else. The second phase of his life began with his huge impact of losing his daughter and having to face this crazy world full of people infected by the cordyceps, many other threats, and pretty much having to fight with his teeth and nails to survive. He became a guy with no hope at all. He went into this mega depression phase, so much so that he even considered taking his own life as an option. In the game, in the hotel part, he told Ellie about this, that taking her own life was not as easy as she imagined, that giving up on life just like that was more difficult than actually fighting for it. That is, going down that path, it wasn't just pulling the trigger, he actually needed courage. And to escape this temptation, he and Tommy lived for many years as hunters, killing everything that moved just to find resources. And they brutally killed several innocent people without mercy. The two wanted to survive and did whatever was necessary for that. When they arrived in the quarantine zone in Boston, the two went on different paths. Tommy decided to join the Fireflies in the hope of saving humanity, and that decision left Joe super mad, which kind of pushed the two away a bit. Joe's path was to become a smuggler. He stopped killing innocent people for no reason and started killing only when necessary. And in that smuggler's life he chose, that's where he met Tess, his smuggling partner, as well as a romantic partner, as shown in episode 1 when Tess spoons him. Everything was going well, smuggling drugs, weapons, medicine, and resources, until one day he had to smuggle a different cargo that changed his life forever. You probably know who that cargo was, right? Well, it can be no other than our dear Ellie, of course. In his journey to the Fireflies, Joe began to rekindle with his once lost humanity and began learning to trust Ellie. And as time went by, Ellie went from being a cargo to being his daughter. On the way to their goal, they had to go through so much. We already saw many of the problems they had in the series, like killing clickers, losing Tess, seeing Harry and Sam die, and so on. But the biggest problems are still to come. Now I gotta stop the video right here to let you know that you may hear spoilers, so be warned, alright? We are yet to see Ellie contacting the worst human being of all, which is David, who was the cannibal leader. And later on, we'll see Joel slaughtering the Fireflies, killing everyone in the hospital where Ellie would do the surgery to try to create the salvation of the world. And of course, not wanting to lose another daughter, Joel killed pretty much anything that could breathe, move, and touch sunlight. The Fireflies ended up being stuck with Joel in there, and that was not a good position to be in. And any doctor, soldier, and even Marlene, who was the leader of the Fireflies, all of them had the bad luck of crossing his path. You were warned for spoilers. Death. Guys, after all he did to keep Ellie alive, did you really think he could escape unpunished? That only happened in the second game, and his death left many fans angry by the way it was executed. Many fans thought it was unnecessary and it was against everything that Joel himself was in part 1. And this is the scene. He entered the wolf's lair to escape a horde of infected, something that the fans definitely know that Joel would never do, which is trust in a complete stranger and enter a house where all her friends were. That definitely sounds like a dumb choice. But I can understand, it was either that or being killed by the horde of infected. There was no other way. Either be completely mauled by the infected or trust Abby and to believe that everyone will leave safe and sound from the house where the WLF group was. But things got pretty damn ugly. The way Joel was killed was another thing that made the fans super furious. The way Joel died was pretty cruel. He was killed using a golf club. Abby was in a nightclub and beat Joel for a considerable amount of time. It was more torture than an execution. Not to mention that she had already shot his knee with a shotgun. So he was already weak and pretty much delivered in her hands. I think at that point, there was no way to leave. So those were the two things that left the fans in pure anger. But try to calm down, okay? Because there is an explanation behind. In a good way, of course. Abby used this golf club because the creator of the game, Neil Druckmann, was inspired by a blow that he himself accidentally took a golf club, which left a hole in his head, needing to take more than 30 stitches to close the injury. Imagine that, 30 stitches on the head. Now his explanations for Joel trusting Abby is more in the open. The interpretation for me is that after part 1, Joel opened up to Ellie and perhaps through time started opening up to people, becoming kind of softer. Life in Jackson probably got a lot easier. Probably didn't have to use his teeth and nails to fight every time as he did back in time. These things definitely came into play with his own death. All this making him more and more careless until one day his luck came to an end and he met his mate, who happened to have a really good reason to do what she did. However, that's for another video. If you want to know more about Abby and why she did what she did, subscribe to the channel and, of course, stay tuned for more uploads. And you can subscribe to the channel by clicking on this little ball right here, because it's a pretty ball. That sounds weird, but click on it. Trust me, you'll like it. And I am just starting out this YouTube channel, so if you click on this ball, you will subscribe, which will help me so much. And, of course, click on the like button if you liked the video. And if you didn't like the video, also click on the like button because you like me, right? Please. But seriously, if you subscribe and like the video, the only thing left is to click the little bell button so you don't miss out on the next video. Peace.